Alright, so in this tutorial, I want to go over what a infinity wall is, and I also want to go over how to make it and why it's important and why it's used in real life and its application in 3D programs. Okay, so here I am in Google, and I have typed out infinity wall. So basically, it's a wall, and what it is where it looks like it goes off into infinity. And that's why they call it infinity wall or backdrop. And so here's one example in real life. Here's another one, all pure white. And this is kind of similar in a way too. And here's another one. And a really fancy one. This one is really good too. You can see why they set it up like that. And another one. So why did they make this? Well, for several reasons. One is where for photography and videos, where the whiteness of it it adds to the lighting, where in terms of secondary lighting and what we call bounce lighting, where let's say you have a light source coming in, it bounces off the wall, the material, and it creates a secondary light bounce, whether it be in 3D programs or in real life. So, you know, if you place an object on the floor, if you look closely at where it makes contact with the white floor, you'll see that it gives a subtle secondary light, or at least it should. And definitely in 3D programs, it will for sure. So here's this like this for a product visualization. And me personally, I've used this a lot for product visualization, modeling, and texturing and photoreal rendering, where you create a backdrop, like I mentioned before, and you just dump in all the assets in there and you start rendering and setting up colors, shaders, stuff like that. And having a white backdrop, um, it also reinforces the color scheme, in terms of having a default color setting. Because if you have, let's say, a blue backdrop, pink backdrop, any other different colors, it influences the overall product. Because there's what we call color bleed, or, color bouncing off to the surrounding environment, stuff like that. So, yeah. So that's the infinity wall, and why we need to also make one, and that you need to make one as well. Here's another one. And so let me see another one for infinity wall for 3D rendering. So here's one, but it's kind of ugly. It's a harsh line. And then here's one from Getty Images. It's all right. What else? What else? 4 minutes went by. Also, let me see here. Good. So you see this? This is probably a real life render. I mean, real life photo. But you see these light boxes? They call it light box and umbrella box. So in Arnold, the technology in it, the lighting and rendering, photoreal lighting and rendering technology in Arnold. It allows you to mimic real world lighting. For example, these light boxes very accurately, almost, yeah, pretty much precisely. Yeah, that's one thing, another note I should mention. And it's really interesting how it's not real, but it'll make something look completely real. So I just also want to mention that the software that you're using, Arnold, is very powerful. You know, super powerful stuff. This kind of technology wasn't really that available, what, years ago? You know, you had to fake everything. So yeah. And okay, I guess that's about it for in terms of the infinity wall. Well, in terms of looking in here. Okay. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to move on to Maya. All right. So here I am in Maya. And as always, I'll make sure where I am in 3D space. Here's the 3D world. And quickly review, you know, Alt or Option to and left click while holding on your Alt or Option, and you can rotate, let it go, and then hold your Alt or Option, middle mouse to pan, like that. Let go of the middle mouse, but still hold on to your Alt and Option, and right click to zoom in and out. On Macs, it will give you an issue sometimes when you hold on the Alt or Option and try to pan with the middle mouse. See, on my PC it's perfectly fine, but on Macs occasionally it'll do this where it'll zoom in and out instead of panning, and it's really annoying, super annoying. So just be ready for that, be mindful of that. It's not you, it's just what it is. I mean, it's not the operating system's problem per se. Probably you know, Autodesk Maya needs to fine-tune their, you know, user interface better for the Macs. That's my assumption, because it definitely isn't my mouse. All right, so all right, to make the infinity wall, we're gonna make it out of a polygon. So I'm gonna hold on my shift, I'm gonna hold on my right mouse button, click and hold, and I'm gonna pick on plane. I'm gonna let go of everything, and it just made it right there. See, holding down my Alt or Option, I'm gonna rotate with the left click. You can see it there. Zoom out a bit. I'm gonna press R as in Robert. That's the scale tool. I'm gonna scale from the center. See right there, that center box? Pull on it. Oh, you see how it's blue right now? Just ignore that. That's the texture thing, UV editor. Just ignore it. I just fixed it right now. But you know, in case if you see that as well when you're doing your UVs, right, and accidentally it's still activated, it's over here under UV editor. Right here, I had this thing on. Chances are you'll stumble upon this as well, because it happened to me many times before, and for a while I didn't know how to get rid of it because it's super annoying. But that's basically it. UV editor, and you click on this guy right here. It makes it go away. See? Much easier on the eyes. And again, that's UV editor right here. Only available during your modeling section right there. So these are all good reviews. So I'm scaling it. I want it to be a lot bigger, like huge, like 200, maybe more, probably like, I don't know, like 1,000. Make it 1,000. This size increments is real world. I believe it's set to right now centimeters. So that's for later on in terms of if you want really accurate lighting, because Arnold, you know, if you fine tune it, it'll set up the lighting to be precisely accurate to real world lighting, from what I remember. It has to do with the light fall off, quadratic, blah blah blah, quadratic fall off, and this and that, and yeah. So anyway, so here it is. Next thing I want to do, you see how I have all these lines. For our sake of modeling and modeling in general, having too many lines is not good. I mean, there are other circumstances where you do need it, and I explain when and why. So I want to get rid of some of these lines. So here I am in the channel box, right? And this is where I scaled it. You know, I scaled it with the R, but then I wanted more precise, so I just, you know, typed in 1,000 before. I'm just saying that because I went by it really quick. XYZ. Again, review. X is going this way. X is red. Y is up, going up. Scale Z is going this way. When I was first learning 3D, I had no idea what the hell this X, Y, and Z stuff was. But to explain it simply, when you're dealing with a 3D world, you're literally dealing with up, side to side, and front to back. Z, which is blue, is your front. See, front, front, front to back. Your red is your right, and your left, right, your left. You know, and like I said before, Y is up and down. So that's what makes 3D programs radically different from softwares like Photoshop, Illustrator, or even like editing programs like Premiere, because it's flat. It's a flat surface that you're manipulating. Whereas in 3D, it's literally everything in all space and its x-axis. So I should review that as well. It's just important. And okay. Yeah. So I have it selected. Here's my channel box. That's Control, or was it Command A for Max? And then you know, here's your attribute editor. Going back to your channel box. Let's go into the inputs. Inputs is its secondary things that you can do to your object right here. And I have here subdivisions, width and height. Let's set it to 8, I believe, was it? From what I remember, right? So if I boom, 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 right? Yeah, 8 should be good, right? Okay. So, the reason why I set it to 8 is you'll see. You know how 8 you can divide it equally? Well, so here's my center line. And that's only possible with 8 sections. Which I'll explain, because I'm going to bend this like a card. So I press W for your move tool. I'm going to, while it's selected, I'm going to press R and go to vertex mode. Remember I talked about components? I'm going to go into the component mode of vertex. Let go. So again, that was, you have it selected, you right click, you choose vertex. You have all these dots. I want to select all of these. Again, just to show you, we're in the front facing. I tilt it a bit. I'm going to grab all of this back here. 1, 2, 3, and the 3 lines in the middle. And not select the middle line. Do not select the middle line. I'm just selecting this portion. Okay. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to show you how. I'm going to press D as in David. Okay. And then it says here align, but ignore that for now. You can move. See how it's moving this thing, but it's not moving the object? I'm editing its pivot point. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. So I had pressed the D. If I press it again, I lose the pivot point, and does that, which I don't want. So I'm going to press D as in David again. I activated the free-forming pivot point. Okay, and I'm going to press V as in Victor. I'm going to hold it down. You see how it turns into a circle? That means when I press V as in Victor and hold it down, I have what we call snap align. It's going to snap to wherever, like a point, like this point right there. So I'm holding down V. I'm going to yank on this arrow right here and yank. See how it snapped? I'm going to let go. Okay. Then I'm going to press. See how it's like this? This means that I believe the pivot, the pivot point is still active in terms of that you can move it around. So let's try. See? I don't want that. I'm going to press Z. So now it's still snapped back to there. I need to deactivate my free-forming pivot point. So I'm going to just press E as in Edward, so that it's now just in rotation mode. Okay? And I'm going to rotate this way under the X quadrant, the X axis, this axis right there. So I have a straight right angle. See how I'm still in my front, right? So instead of just pulling like this, which is like I can't get the perfect right angle, right? So it's kind of, it'll cause you a headache. I'm gonna hold on J as in Jacob, and I'm gonna hold it, holding J, and then try to tilt this. Carefully grab this and pop, 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 pop. Let go of the J. I'm gonna rotate, and I have my perfect wall. Press W to let go. Then I'm gonna press, while this is still selected, I'm gonna press 3, the 3 key. That creates what we call a smooth proxy, meaning basically it's gonna make it look smooth. When you press the 3 key, when you press 1, it goes back to its default, base mesh polygon. Press 3, here's the smooth proxy. So it will look like this when you render. Press 1, it will look like this when you render. Alright, so that's how we created it. Okay, and obviously it's kind of over here. That's the center of the 3D world. This is where everything's going to get built, but my wall is further forward. See, further forward. I'm going to just press right click, hold, go to object mode, and W is the move tool. Don't mess around with this stuff. Don't mess around with that. Don't mess around with that. I'm just going to yank it back in blue, which is the Z axis. Pull. There you have it. And that's how you make the wall. Okay. And I'm going to name it. I'm going to name it Infinity Wall. And there's your first ever infinity wall. And trust me, this thing comes in handy in production all the time, for product rendering, compositing, all that stuff. And this is one quick way to make it. And just to review, let me just dump it in here under layers. See here, I have it selected. I'm going to click on this. That means I dumped it automatically in here. Remember? Double click that. I'm going to name it underscore infinity underscore wall underscore save. Ta-da! And you'll notice how under translate Z, it says it went back negative 89, I think, centimeters. But see? Or, yeah. See how it's interacting? Right. So, next. Alright, what else? This, I mean, it's 20 minutes. I should maybe just leave it here. I mean, I kind of want to go over the global illumination in relation to this, but that's going to make it longer and longer. I guess for now, this is good. I'll make another module for that other section and why it's important. Yeah, but I also think we should make it bigger in different ways. Let's say, for example, I select it, right click, hold. Let's go into the other component mode, the edges component mode. Before we were under the vertices. Now I'm under edges. So I want to yank the walls sideways. Well, I don't need to use edges, but I mean, yeah, I'll do this. I'll select that edge. I'll go over here, but I'm gonna hold down Shift, and I'm gonna double click. See, it selects that portion instead of having to select one by one by one by one. Again, that's select one here. It defines where it's starting. Over here where it's ending. Hold down Shift, double click, there. Now I'm gonna yank on it. You see what it's doing? And do you see how this guy is interacting with it? Oh, that's the properties of what you call smooth proxy. The secondary lines, they interact in terms of how close you get and how far you get. So I'm gonna yank it back there. In the next tutorial, I'll explain why I'm doing that. There's a real reason why. I'm gonna click on that. Go over here, Shift, double click. When I double click, it's always with that left mouse. I zoomed out, I'm gonna pull up. Okay. Then I'm gonna right click and hold, and let's just go to object mode for now. Then I'm gonna hit R as in Robert, and I'm gonna yank on this because we are now in the scale tool, but we're manipulating it as an object, a whole object instead of its smaller components or secondary components. I'm gonna yank on that to make it wide. Okay, and I'll explain why I did all this in the next tutorial. I'm gonna hit W because I don't want to accidentally mess around with the scale tool. And just to go over our channel box, here's our manipulations that we did. We scaled it that way, but you notice how when we manipulated the components, it doesn't show, and it's just the way it is. I mean, if you dig really deep, it'll show. But this is our, remember how we messed with the spans, 8x8. Leave this alone after we're done. In that sense, you know what I'm gonna do? I should freeze the transform. Yeah. Let's freeze the transform. The reason why is all this stuff is still live and active. So let's say something happens, you know, and you click that, it just moved. Something happens and you put 5, just see what happens. So I need all this to get wiped out clean so I don't accidentally manipulate it. So I don't accidentally manipulate it some more. That's where freeze transformations comes in handy. So I select it. I'm gonna go to modify, freeze transformations, and watch what happens to the channel box. It wipes out clean. So as if this is by default how it's looks like. And this is my history. I have a poly tweak. This is my plane, blah blah blah, transform. We don't need any of this anymore. So let's delete the history. This is this history that we did to it. Edit, delete by type, history. Now this thing is perfectly clean. This thing here under inputs is just telling me that I made a layer, a display layer for it. See? Shapes, just not mess with it. And there we have it, our infinity wall. And the next tutorial I'll go over its relationship to global illumination and lighting, its relationship to compositing and shaders, specifically the shadow matte shader, which I went over in the other tutorial, but maybe I'll make a more refined one too. Yeah, I mean, this way at least I'm just layering tutorials on top of each other and strengthening one after another, even though it sounds kind of redundant. It's just good to hear this stuff over and over again so that it gets ingrained. Okay, that's it.